So we've learned a lot of different things through a lot of different topics in New Testament. So today I'm just going to go through main points we talked about and one thing I learned from each. And first we started with text and history, and I learned that although Jesus and his disciples would have spoken Aramaic, the New Testament would have been written in Koine Greek. And then we moved to Paul, and I learned that almost half the New Testament is attributed to Paul. And then we moved into Paul's letters, and I learned that Philemon would be the only book in the New Testament that is obviously written as an individual and personal letter. And then our next topic was issues in Paul, and I learned that in the judicial understanding of salvation, that God would be both the judge and the wronged party, which I thought was interesting. And then we moved to the synoptics. The synoptic problem deals with how the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke all relate to one another. And then we moved to the birth stories, and I learned that the birth story of Jesus only appears in Matthew and Luke. And then we moved to John, and John is often called the spiritual gospel. And then we moved to crucifixion, and I learned that the Romans would have been who actually crucified Jesus. And then we moved to Deutero-Paul letters, and I learned that Ephesians copies large parts of Colossians, which is really interesting. And then we moved to pastorals, and the pastoral epistles are obsessed with ordering people and institutions. And then we moved to general epistles and learned that Jude is often identified as the brother of James, and therefore he would have been the brother of Jesus. And then we moved to Hebrews, and we learned that Hebrews has identified obedient faith as the fundamental response demanded by God. And then we moved to Revelation, which was last, and I learned that it's the only apocalyptic prophecy that we are given in the Bible.